Aim for Mastery, you and I met, I don't know how many years ago, but it initiated a pretty good relationship, and it led to a lot of opportunities for me.
Yeah,
I'm curious, how did it all get started? Like, how did our connection begin? You remember?
we date back to the year 2000.
Yeah.
Larry Ring and I'm trying to remember his name. That it was a Huron hockey school,
Okay.
and I wasn't involved. Larry asked me to get involved, but that was going on. He was working with this person, and they organized a weekend for Aboriginal athletes.
Right.
And I guess you're a known person in the circle. They invited you to come to Ottawa to work with the athletes. And I remember how we met. We met at a what do they call it? A like the circle where
the sports circle, the Aboriginal circle.
Yeah. That's where I met you on the campus of the university. I don't know if you recall. It's a long time ago. It's 20 years. But they held a smoke circle up at the near the university center.
Yeah.
And there was a circle, and you were part of it, and I was invited, so I was part of it, and that's where we first crossed paths.
Wow. Well, you tweak my memory, because when you work with Hockey Canada, it opens doors to get to meet people. And that was one of the opportunities, because my role at Hockey Canada was the female program. And glad I got involved with the Aboriginal program. I'd have to say it's one of the most meaningful things I've ever done, because like everything you do, you get taught more by the people you work with than you do what you offer them. And
absolutely.
In that case, the sports circle, and for anybody who might be listening, if we post any of this, it for me was sort of an eye-opening, life-changing moment, because that wasn't my first sports circle. I think that would be my third or fourth one. I'd experienced the first one in Thunder Bay at the original Aboriginal camp. And that camp, the sports circle, all the Aboriginal camps, the mornings begin with a sports circle. And it's not a sports circle, it's a prayer circle.
Yeah.
And they expect all the athletes to come and coaches to come and pray and smudge themselves.
Yeah.
Smudging. And I found it really unique. And I always brought all the girls. I never saw guys show up. So they did it with the girls. Both camps were run, together, but there wasn't always the buy-in from the male side, but the females, as you know, were a lot more receptive to it. And of course, as a leader coach myself, I looked at it, what an opportunity to learn. And the sports circle and the connectivity of the elders who led the sports circle and the philosophy behind it was very grounding in terms of, Mother Nature and appreciation of living and life and nature in particular. It really, to me, opened my eye about, when you look at our times today, the Aboriginal way of life and connectivity is something that's missing in, today's state of economic and political affairs. So that resonated with me. And I've seen some miraculous things happen in sports circles that people might regard as, oh, that's not true. That's unbelievable. You're just doing it. And the circle you were at with me, and I don't know which one it was. It was the first one or whatever, we were at the University of Ottawa campus. And normally when you go to a sports circle, they find a place of nature by a creek or a river, surrounded by nature, but University of Ottawa campus didn't have that many places. So we found a place near the residence, which was close to the highway, driving into the busy highway nearby, and lots of cement with a little bit of grass. And we made it our sports circle. So it was not what you call an ideal atmosphere for such a thing. But at the very first sports circle, I believe it was the first one, I was just awestruck because during the ceremony, I was standing beside one of the coaches, an Aboriginal lady, young lady, played in the NCAA, who had been in the sports circles with me a few years before that. She's now coaching. And during the ceremony, a bird hovered in the apex of the circle above us and just stayed there for the most of the ceremony. And I didn't think anything of it, but what an unusual thing to happen. And I didn't say anything, I didn't do anything, I just went with it. And the next morning, and I don't know if you came the next morning, Ray, but the next morning during the ceremony, a rabbit hopped into the center of the sports circle. And I'm looking to my left and right, and I'm looking behind me for a cage, saying, what's going on here? And when it was all over, I talked to the coach about it. And she said, no, this is quite common in sports circles. The animals, nature, the energy that's transmitted by humans and nature, it comes together. And I always remember that. And boy, I've got more stories I could write a book on that the average white person would absolutely brush off as being bogus, phony,
absolutely.
makeup. But when you live that, you learn to appreciate what they had to offer. And, once again, to me, it's not about the hockey as much as it is about this kind of thing, the connectivity with the sport and life and what it can do for you, and bringing the Aboriginal girls together and trying to make them better hockey players. And I think making them better people, which they might have been before assimilating into our way of life, which is causing us more trouble than ever now.
Well, but this business of reconnecting is exactly what John Nesbitt was talking about back in almost 30 years ago when he wrote the book Megatrends. And he dedicated a whole chapter to the fact that technology alienates us. And he made the point that the more we go forward and the more technology invades our life, we have to make an effort to connect on a human basis, because like we're living it. And people that I coach, most of them suffer from, well, again, I was working with a client last week, and he used the word slave. We're slaves to our phone. And I'm not the one that said it. He said it, and I said, it behooves us and it belongs to us to do something to get out of that mode. Because if we don't, we're more and more run by robots in the shape of a cell phone.